Practice today. Aaron Banks concussion will be out. Jordan Elliott concussion will be out. Flanagan Fowles knee out. Demo Lenore knee out. Nick Bosa hip oblique out. Trent Williams ankle out. Christian McCaffrey just rest. Brock Purdy right shoulder limited. Pooney shoulder limited. Greenlaw Achilles limited. Kevin Givens groin limited. That's it.
Lenore, what was the diagnosis?
He just banged knees.
What was it, long term or?
It's
I mean, he's out today.
what's that?
I know he's out today, but just is it a concern that it could be long term?
He can't go today, so but no, we're not ruling him out for this week. Hopefully, he'll be able to go tomorrow.
As far as Brock, I think he was limited last Wednesday. He didn't do any throwing. Will it be like that, or will he actually be throwing the ball?
We'll decide when we get out there.
Jacob County's out of the protocol.
Yes.
Kyle, Daniel Jones signed with the Vikings today. It was been reported that I think that you guys may have had some level of interest. How would you describe your guys' interest in him?
We discussed it. Yeah. That's about it.
Well, you said Cowling is out of the protocol. What do you think of Ricky Pearsall, how he looked back there fielding punts, and would you consider making him your full-time guy?
I thought he did a good job, but we didn't consider making a change or anything. Jake's healthy; he'll probably go, but we got two good options there. Ricky did a real good job.
I know you guys are off tomorrow, but how much work will you put in, despite it being Thanksgiving?
Oh, we're not off tomorrow.
You're not off.
I don't know anyone who gets Thanksgiving off. You start a little bit earlier, you cram a lot in. There's less time in between. Everyone has different ways to do it, but I don't know anyone who gives it off unless maybe you have like a Monday night game, you have an 8-day week, maybe you could do that. But you just start a lot earlier. You get the players out. You usually don't watch film right after. You usually pick that up the next morning pretty early. So, did you ask when I get out?
I didn't know if you were working or not. I knew you were going to be working, but I didn't know how much.
No, we
you
usually,
put in.
we cram everything in and the players get out earlier, so it allows us to start, we usually do on Thursday nights our red zone. We prepare for our team meetings and everything that we do Friday morning. But everyone gets out, tries to be home with the family by 5. I usually get home around 7 and they're all mad at me. And then I eat my dinner and get back to the red zone.
John on KNBR discussed Trey Greenlaw doing some mock games out there on the practice field. What's that all about? What went into those sort of sessions to get him ready for opening his window this week?
I didn't watch him or anything, but that's what all our guys kind of go through who are on IR. Like Huff's doing that this week. You're just not allowed to be with coaches or anything like that until you open their window. So they don't like their first time doing true football drills and everything to be that. So when they go out on their own with their training staff, they're doing less like rehab stuff and more doing like what they would do in individual. A trainer taking them through that, doing the reps of what they do in practice. They try to get a normal practice week in so they can get their yards, all their output and input, whatever it is, for the GPSs and everything that they do in a normal Wednesday practice to see how sore they are on Thursday. Then they do that same thing on Thursday to see how sore they are on Friday. Then they try to have a workout on Sunday to see that. And they do that, and then we open up their window, and then they have 3 weeks to go through that before we can make a decision.
Signal that Hufanga's window might be opening up soon as well.
It signals that it's got a chance to.
Fred, after the game, said he didn't feel like the defense was prepared for some of the Packers run looks, and then it's out there and it's an indictment of the coaching staff and Sorensen. Is that a fair characterization of what happened, and were you disappointed with the level of preparation?
No, not at all. They did two new runs that they hadn't done before. They're not new runs, they're just formations, which happens every week. That's all we really do. We could try to come up with a new formation around the same run and try to get guys to take the bait on something, and they had a new one and they took the bait twice and got our guys out of a gap, but that's every week.
How much of a lift do you think it's going to be to get Dre back out there?
We'll see how it goes. So, it'll be awesome just having him on the field today. We love when Dre's around, whether it's on the field and meeting rooms. He's 100% ball. Everyone loves him in here, and just watching him fly around out there today will be real fun.
Coach, after watching film from the past game against the Packers, knowing that you're preparing for Buffalo, what have you kind of reflected on when it comes to the miscues and the self-inflicted wounds that you're kind of harping on in practice, if any, taking it to Buffalo this weekend?
there's not much secret to it. We got to tackle better. We can't turn it over 3 times on 3 drives in a row. The penalties that we can change, a couple pre-snap penalties, 112 on the field, 1 bad holding that we had. Those are the ones that we got to fix.
With the weather possibly snowing, how does that impact your, I guess, your plan, your scheme? Do you have to do extra preparations for that contingencies, or you just shift on the fly?
No, I mean, you got to have an idea of how the game's going to play out and how it's going to go, which you do in every situation. I mean, you have an idea of that if you have certain guys get hurt. You have an idea of that if the weather always changes. When you go into it and you hear that it could be the weather that it is, you take that in your mind a lot, understanding how the game can be. But you don't make a full game plan for that because I've listened to plenty of weather reports that change that day too. So you got to be ready for anything, just like you are with injuries, but we fully understand what the elements may be.
Since CMC came back, you're not really using Garendo or Mason that much. I think 7 carries combined in the 3 games. Is it their ball security issues is an issue, or is it just the greatness of McCaffrey precludes them from getting on the field?
No, I just think, even when Mason was going a ton, we didn't get Isaac a lot, So, we're not just a big 3-man rotation team, especially when you have a solidified starter. We're not trying to get Christian off the field more. We want to keep him fresh and keep him at his best, but Christian's also a guy who gets better as he goes. He's a guy who feels a lot more comfortable being out there. I also don't think the way these games have gone, we didn't run the ball much last week at all in general. So not many people, I think we got 14 runs. So when that's the case, you're not going on long drives. You only have 13 plays or 14 plays in the whole first half, with one of them being close to a 2-minute drive, the others being 4 and out. It's just not going to work out that way.
Have you talked to him in terms of just how he's feeling? If he feels like he's kind of has the same steps that he had in past years? And, that first game looked like the second effort that he usually plays with was there. There just wasn't room to run.
Yeah, I think. We haven't played that well these last 2 weeks, or we haven't got the running game going these last 2 weeks. Thought it was better versus Tampa. We just didn't get a big one. But the speculation on Christian, I think, is a little bit unfair to him. Christian's playing very well. He's playing his ass off. But to think a guy who misses an entire offseason is just going to be the exact same the day he gets back would be unfair to any player in the world, I feel like. Guys who miss off seasons and miss training camp, usually it takes them a little bit of time at the beginning of the year to get back into how they were the year before, let alone missing half the season also on top of that. So I think Christian's doing a hell of a job, but to just think him coming back in week 8 with not being able to do anything for the last 9 months or whatever it is, and to think he's just going to be in MVP form is a very unrealistic expectation.
When you watch him, is it more physical things that he's still trying to get back, or is it just vision, or is it maybe a little bit of everything?
I think he looks real good. I think he's playing very well. I don't think he's had a bunch of clean lanes. I think he had a couple versus, when I say a couple, I actually mean 2 versus Tampa. And if he hits those 2, which maybe is just half a step off just with seeing it, but you hit those 2 and it'll completely change yards per carry, which will look better from an outside perspective, but it won't change anything in actually what's happening. So to sit here and talk like he's struggling, not going to do that at all. But for us to be disappointed that he's not exactly how he was or just right in MVP form, that'd be unfair with any player.
Pretty matter-of-fact and direct approach in times when you're winning. I'm curious, do you think when times you're struggling like now, do you choose your words differently? Do you want to be the same guy every day, or how do you approach that?
I don't plan anything really like that and I don't turn to page chapter 4 in my book and say how to act this week. I look at what's happening. I look at who we're playing. I look at every situation that it is, and that's the stuff I address. It's not a movie. I'm a football coach, and I address our team for the reality that we're in. And the reality that you're in isn't a story. It's what we see on that tape. It's what we do in practice. It's what our situation is with injuries. It's who we're playing. And that's really what you do day in and day out for an entire season, for preseason, off-season, to winning, to losing. It's really all the same. You just coach and will do everything you can to get everyone's skills right.
Christian seems like a guy that takes maybe his lack of production very personally. He sat in his locker for about 15 minutes after the game on Sunday. And do you have to talk to him and make sure that he's okay mentally?
And that's what makes Christian great. Christian, I've told you guys, he's a psycho in the best way possible. Christian had a fumble there at the end of the game. He no matter what I say to him, he's not going to forgive himself for a fumble for probably the rest of his life. He'll still be mad at himself for that. That's just how he rolls. That's his mindset and everything. I mean, you can used to see him in OTAs if he drops a ball and how he acts after that, and apologizing to us later in the day for a dropped ball in OTAs on period 1. So like, that's what makes him great, and it means a lot to him.
You're 5-6, no one thought you'd be in this situation. You're shocked to learn you're being criticized. You should do this. You should do that. When you look at your performance, this season, how would you grade yourself, or like, how are you doing?
That's up to you guys to grade me. I work as hard as I can to get a win that week, and we haven't won as much as I believe we should have. We've lost 3 games that I feel we were capable of winning and should have won. Those are the ones that are the toughest. In terms of grading myself, I'm not going to grade myself. I'm going to work as hard as I can, and I'm the same guy I am right now that I've always been. We got to overcome some things that we're in right now, and I believe we can overcome them, but we put ourselves in a tough bind, and that's why we got to be extremely good and successful here going forward to be able to overcome that stuff.
On that note, there's a lot of people online who are saying a lot of things. I know you don't always look at that, but a lot of those people aren't in your locker room. What do you make of the vibe in your locker room right now?
The vibe in our locker room is, exactly how you would think it'd be. We're upset with where we're at in our record, but we got a tight group and we play together. And I think if you live in the world online, it's whether you're dealing with our profession or your kids dealing with social issues in school. You're not going to be happy if you're dealing in the world online. And I've definitely coached long enough that I don't deal in that world. Only online I look at is usually movie stuff and rap battles and funny things that animals do. So it's good or bad. When you listen to the good stuff, that'll mess you up more than anything. And then when you listen to the bad stuff, it'll crush you. So that's not why any of us do this. And you got to work with younger guys on that. I think it's harder just because of the world that they've been brought up in. But that's don't make someone else's reality your reality. You got to focus on what your job is and never get away from that.
I know that Brandon Allen and Ricky Pearsall must not have had a lot of reps together, but Pearsall wasn't targeted in the game. Is he getting open as well as you like? Where has he been the last few weeks as far as?
I think he's been fine. It doesn't work out that way. They played. When you talk about getting open, I talk about getting open as in, do you beat man coverage? They played 2 snaps of man coverage in that game on our drive at the end of the third quarter where we went down and scored, and they didn't do it after. So that's about high-lowing people. When they play deep, you check it down. It's about getting screens to people is really the only way you can dictate they get a touch. But when you go to zone defenses, I don't really look at that as can guys get open. It's how are we dispersing the field, what's the time to go through a progression, and do they catch it when we go to them and get up the field. All right, thanks, guys.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I guess what stood out most when you're watching film of the Green Bay game? Is it the missed tackles, or I guess is that it?
That's one of them. It was just, the tale of the halves with the run game, especially in the first half. Tackling was a part. Some was, early on I got with a call. We tried to pressure there early and just it worked for them and not for us. So they got us. We could have tackled them for 8. And then there was a really, really good open field spin move. Yeah, and they got 18 out of it. So it's like you'd like it to cut it to 8, not being explosive. But, they had got us there. And then just some other, plays in the run game early. I mean, we made some adjustments and, fixed that in the second half. But it's hard when you get behind like that. And, we didn't take the ball. I think we had multiple ops. So they made their ops, we didn't. It makes a huge difference in the game. So when they can control every aspect of it, starting with the run game, and then we didn't, 5 for 5 in the red zone. You can't do that. I don't care how they get down there. We can't. So the list is pretty long in my book. We did some things good, but there's a lot that we can be better at. And our guys know it. We're determined, and we got to fix it.
Nick, what's your coaching style? You missed 19 tackles. You're the coordinator. I mean, you lose it? You start throwing stuff? Are you calm? Or you start calling guys out? I mean, what's the process?
I'm not a yeller. I mean, it's pretty evident. It's coach it up, and we got to fix it or find someone else, that can do it. But I think in that game it was a consistent not running our feet, and I think a lot of it came down to the running back too. I think we knew going into it we had to get body on body, but he was really good. He's a really good jump cutter. He's good on the spin. I mean, he's as good as they got. Or good as they get in the league, I think. So with us, that's why I continue to work a tackling circuit every week. It's hard when you don't have the pads on, and so even when we take them off, we're still going to do it because you can go whole practice and not really get that. So it's emphasizing running your feet, wrap, squeeze, drive for 5, and it showed up in the game.
You were a player, so there are no acceptable excuses, but are you seeing fatigue with the players? Because sometimes when guys fall off tackles, sometimes it's just they get to a certain point, they're running out of gas a little bit.
I mean, I don't see that. I don't think that because our guys train hard and they're prepared. I just think it's the consciousness of you see so many times people approach a tackle, and we talked about sprint tackling early in the year when we talked about the tackling and runners like that can jump cut, they want you to come up and come to balance, where a lot of people think you need to come to balance, sit in a chair. But the best thing you can do is just keep going, keep running your feet. It's just continually repping it and having that mindset of just accelerating through and not, if you stop, he will juke you. He will catch you on a jump cut and get you moved and then be able to, especially with him, because he could, run through an edge, like run through a shoulder because how fast he could reaccelerate. So it's just applying what we already know and being as detailed as possible on executing it.
After the game, Fred said they presented different run looks than what we had prepared for in the first half. Can you expound on that? Like what did happen there?
I think there were some formations. I mean, they didn't do it quite as much, leading up to it, and they did it a few times in the game. We had repped them during the week, but not like quite as much. So that was part of the stuff that we had to fix and make those adjustments. But yeah.
Are those ongoing?
Yeah, we're always talking through stuff and, do we need to, change a call? Do we need to, we see it this way. That's why you have the little pads on the sideline and we talk through stuff, how we saw it. We're talking with the guys upstairs, talking with the players. Some games you adjust, sometimes you don't. There's always continuous. It just depends.
Can you address the 12 men on the field penalties back to back?
It's just pure. Yeah, it's pure communication. I mean, it starts with me. We emphasize, and we have to fix it. We're doing all we can to do it. Starts with nonverbal, then it turns to verbal. Know who's in, know who's out, and what personnel grouping, whether it's nickel base or you go with bigger, more D linemen. I think the first one was more, they were approaching the huddle in a way that, to me it seemed quicker because they had subbed, got to the huddle, and that's something for me. I feel like should be allowed to sub. We're still working through what the exact rules on that are because they subbed late into the huddle, so we need to be able to sub. That's what there's kind of an argument about it. And then the second one, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Players, coaches, all of us.
And that's the red zone and the goal line
Yeah.
you talked about.
Yep.
What have you seen out of the goal line defense this year? Are there any strides, or is it simple breakdowns, or what's gone wrong?
I mean, I feel like we're getting hits on guys. It's not like super easy, you know. You just can't let them get that many shots. And the closer you get, the harder it gets. Like we're like hitting a guy, but it's on the 1 or the 2, and you keep getting a yard and a yard. It's really cool if it was on the 15 and you hit them and they get a yard. You're like, all right, it's 2nd and 9. Or if they do it again, okay, cool. It's 3rd and 8, but you're down low. So we got to do our best to not let them get in the low and continue to find ways to execute the right way so they don't get a touchdown. It's a 4-point difference. It's a huge difference, especially with that many of them.
Challenge this week, Buffalo's scored 30, I think, in 6 straight games or 5 straight games, and they picked up Cooper. They got a couple different backs. The quarterback can run. What do they look like on film?
It's all that. I think it starts with Josh Allen. I think he continues to get better. He's all the, what he's always been, effective in being able to run and scramble and find guys. The difference, I think, with him this year, he's just being more effective. He's grown as far as being able to throw on time. If you give him something, he has the arm to be able to rip it, wherever that, given throw is. But he's really good at moving guys, in zones and, being pinpoint accurate with it, but how fast and how he can accelerate the throws. And then, with him, it's his size and his speed, the ability to throw it on the run, especially down the field. A lot of guys don't have that vision downfield. I feel like he sees that really, really well, and he can throw it really, really well. And he can find the gap that he needs to escape, but then also still stay alive. And in certain situations, he can run you over or he can slide. So you have to be ready for both and be able to react to both.
You've been doing this a long time as a player and a coach. You know how this works. Team goes to the Super Bowl, and now they're 5-6. And there's all sorts of criticism for everybody.
Yes.
And you're getting some, hey, what's wrong with the defense coordinator? How would you assess your performance and, just kind of how you've done this year?
I'm just focused on each week. I honestly, that's the truth. If we don't win, I feel like it was not good enough. That's the truth. That's all I care about. I don't know all the numbers, whatever. I'm not here to assess where I'm at. I'm about, are we winning? And then are we getting better? Are we working hard to get better? And are we winning the game? So if we don't win, it's not good enough. I mean, it's never going to be perfect, so we can always coach it and get better. I feel like our guys have gotten better because we've had some new guys, and I like to see the development of them, but it's not about moral victories in that way. It's good to see our guys grow. I'm really proud of them in that they battle and they get better, and I think as a unit we are getting better. You want to see it applied and, win the game. Yep. Thanks, guys.